The conflict in Iran also sending fuel prices sharply higher, adding pressure on the aviation sector. Gas prices have surged more than 25% this week, while jet fuel prices in Asia have climbed to record highs. Now, that's a major concern for airlines, particularly in India, where the routes to the Middle East are among the busiest, driven by a large Indian diaspora in the region. In fact, the largest. The Gulf also serves as a key transit corridor for flights between India and the West, meaning disruptions can ripple across global networks. Airlines including Indigo, Air India, and SpiceJet are already facing operational challenges as the conflict escalates. To talk about that and more, we have Mark Martin. He's the founder and CEO at Martin Consulting. The latest numbers that we're getting right now, Mark, is interesting. More than 50,000 flights emanating from the region, the Middle East, 25,000 or so cancelled. What's your take on this? I want to just start by understanding that, paint the picture, because you have the Middle East as one of the world's most critical aviation corridors, and you have the disruption in the airspaces across Iran, Iraq, and other parts. How disruptive is this? Quantify that for us.
Hey, morning. Thanks for having me. I think we have to understand that the Middle East is 95% driven by expatriate population. They're not domiciled or locals, and for them to get back over to maybe India, the Philippines, Pakistan, the UK, you're going to need a minimum conservative of about 2,000 more aircraft operating roughly about 22,000 flights. Okay. Now, what the strategy of the Middle Eastern government, and especially in the UAE, is to keep everybody calm and assure them by, we're doing everything to keep you safe. Look up there, we got the French Rafale jets protecting you. There's nothing to panic. Stay in the UAE. Do not leave. And I think that's the bigger message here, because if everybody starts to leave and panic, we're going to look at a major humanitarian crisis. And I'll be honest with you, none of the airlines over in India or Malaysia or Philippines or anyone in the region would be able to deal with that kind of demand. You've got almost 1.8 million Filipinos over there in the UAE. You've got 4.3 million Indians. You've got 1.7 million Pakistanis. You've got 240,000 British nationals. Just to handle that humanitarian evacuation is going to need at least close to 22,000 flights. And the total cost of this is going to be $7.74 billion. And the bigger impact that we see is very well pointed out, the rise in fuel prices. Jet fuel is up to an all-time high. Oil is now trading at 85, 87. It's the futures market it's much higher. It's going to go up to 115. The dollar was 88. Now it's 91 on the rupee. Currencies are getting impacted across the world. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. And if we're not going to be careful with the way we're doing this, or if they're being very frivolous in the approach, whether it's Iran, the U.S., or Israel, this is going to go out of control. And given our current financial situation across the world, I don't think any countries or anybody is going to stand up and pick up that tab of $7.74 billion to evacuate its population. So this is tough times, and the key message here is, either you stay in the UAE and keep quiet, or things are going to go into the world's biggest humanitarian relief effort, bigger than the Berlin airlift we saw in World War II.
Okay, on the scale of worst case scenario to best case scenario, you've painted a picture of the worst case scenario, but the middle scenario is a short-term operational disruption. That's what most analysts are referring to. That's what they believe. So in that context, could this become still, in that short-term operational disruption crisis, could this become the biggest aviation routing crisis since the Russia-Ukraine war shut off the northern corridors?
Oh, yeah. Clearly, I think what I painted was a doomsday prediction, but the best case would be purely dependent on de-escalation. If Israel, US, Iran de-escalate, bury the hatchet, end this in this week, then we're looking life coming back to normal, everything status quo. But from what we're seeing in the last 5 days, it just seems to be escalating day on day. There seems to be no end to this. And that's my bigger fear here, because it's not just that, Airbus is going to be affected as an OEM. Boeing is affected because their production lines get impacted. And secondly, you got aircraft grounded that can't go to the world's busiest aviation market. Look at the revenue from airports, airlines. Conservatively, we expected a 1 week loss of roughly about 1.2 billion. If this continues, that's 1.2 billion is just for India. So that means if you start adding in most other markets, it's at least 5 billion a week, and that's 20 or 30 billion in a month. So it's unprecedented. We've never seen this before, and clearly all focus now shifts to the next couple of days, and we're hoping at least by next Wednesday, there is a de-escalation. There's a peace deal on the table, and at least flights can resume back, and people don't really leave the Middle East.
I just want to dive a little deeper into jet fuel prices. They've been trading in Asia. Singapore rocketed 72% to about 225.44 a barrel on Wednesday. We're also looking at other record highs. The spot price of jet kerosene gained about 140% since the close of, it was in 93.45. This is obviously starting from February 27 when the conflict really broke out. And at the same time, you have jet fuel tending to have these lower inventories because of specialized storage. So my question to you in that context is, are we now seeing the consequences of that structural vulnerability really now, in the refining system, which could potentially impact the whole sector?
Oh yeah, Amritej, this isn't, the sector was already under tremendous strain before the Iran-Israel-US conflict began. We've got Ukraine, we've got Pakistan with Afghanistan, we've got Venezuela. So what we see and what we note that happened back in December, January is because of Venezuela. That led to this. Now, what we're seeing is far too many oil economies getting impacted in far short time. And this is what, as you rightly mentioned, that's what created the spike about 30 or 45 days ago. So it's Venezuela. It's, of course, so Ukraine predates Venezuela. Then you got your conflict in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and now we've got a new conflict. So, 20% of the world is conflicted at the moment. And this is going to drive oil prices far higher. And especially with oil supply, the cost now, refineries, if refineries don't get oil in the next 15 days, the refineries are going to shut down. So, we're dealing with possibly a catastrophic oil economy situation here. And the only solution, Amritej, is, we're going to need a peace deal fast to at least save what we have and move on.
Briefly speaking, is India disproportionately hit than most other countries because it had crisis after crisis in the last couple of months, and at the same time, and I'm saying this in the context that Air India, Indigo, and SpiceJet, they're all adding different flights, avoiding the Middle East to make sure that they don't have these big losses and they can compensate?
Absolutely, yes. We saw what happened to Indigo in November, where they chose to not comply with the regulation. They had to cancel 2,000 flights a day. Okay, this went on for 7 days. Plus, then we got into a conflict mode. Pakistan is still a no-fly airspace for aircraft in India. So guess what? We got to circumvent Pakistan, Afghanistan, get over to the UAE, and then go to Europe. Now, the UAE, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Israel, everything becomes a no-fly zone. So an average aircraft from India has to go all the way down to Sudan and Somalia and then fly north. Operating cost is gone up by almost 50% per ticket. So is flying time. So that's an impact.
Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate that. Mark Martin from Martin Consulting. That's all the time we have today on Inside India. Keep watching CNBC. Our focus shifts to the Middle East now. Access Middle East is up next.